Warning, there are people pretending to be me in the comments. This is what a comment from me looks like. Notice that the name is spelled perfectly, and notice the border around the name. That's how you know it's from me. You can also click on my name to make sure you actually go to my channel to double check. And this is what a comment from an imposter will look like. It has weird characters in the name or comment, and it's usually going to ask you to add them on WhatsApp or Telegram. I don't have WhatsApp or Telegram, and I would never ask you to add me on there. Alright, so please be careful, use your common sense, and now let's get back to the video. Hey, how's it going, GPU heads? Thanks for clicking on my video. Seb Heslo here, and it's time for another deep dive review on a GPU. And this day it's the 3080 Ti LHR. You know, all 3080 Ti's are LHR, and we're gonna be testing this guy in terms of max hash rate, best efficiency, profitability, power consumption, as well as we're gonna have a look at the overclock settings for this as well, but more on that in a bit. And we're gonna be testing all of that on Ethereum, Ethreum Classic, Ravencoin, Firo, Ergo, and Flux. And now do keep in mind, this is an LHR GPU, like I said, and that means it will be hash rate limited on Ethereum, Ethreum Classic, any ETH hash algorithm based coin basically. And this is another video in the series that I'm doing where I am doing a complete deep dive in terms of mining on all of NVIDIA's current lineup of RTX 30 series GPUs as well as the GTX 16 series. And if after watching this video you feel like, you know, this is the GPU for you, I will leave links in the description to buy this GPU. Now, full disclosure, those will be affiliate links, which means that if you do make a purchase through those links, the channel here gets a small commission at no extra cost to you basically. And just quickly before we get started, I want to mention about overclock settings, because I will be showing you, you know, the overclock settings I find for this GPU, you know, as we're testing it. However, please do keep in mind that those overclock settings are for my GPU, and they might not be optimal for your GPU. You know, they might be close-ish, but they won't be perfect for your GPU because each GPU is individual and needs unique overclock settings basically. But you don't have to worry, because I've actually made a full video guide on how to find the perfect overclock settings for your specific GPU, no matter what coin you're mining. So I'll leave a link to that video up in the card there, as well as in the description of this video. But yeah, now that that's out of the way, let's hop on over to the computer and get started. Alright, so we are over on the computer now, and the way we do these videos is that usually I go through you know, mining the different coins at the different overclock settings that I find are the best, and I show you throughout. And then towards the end of the video we have a bit of a summary of all our findings, as well as check all of the profitability for the different coins and stuff. So stick around as we go through all of the settings and hash rates now, and let's start by just having a look at the statistics for this GPU in GPU-Z, which some of you always ask for. So here you can see it's our 3080 Ti, and we got Micron GDDR6X memory. So yeah, there is that if you were interested. And let's now have a look at mining Ethereum on this GPU. Now, for Ethereum and Ethreum Classic, since they basically have the same algorithm, hash rates, overclock settings, efficiencies, and all the things like that will be the exact same. So we don't need to test both Ethereum and Ethreum Classic to get all of our data basically. And just bear in mind that this is a 3080 Ti, which means it is LHR. So it is hash rate limited on, you know, the ETH hash algorithm that is used for Ethereum and Ethereum Classic and coins like that, which means we will be using the latest version of T-Rex Miner, which has that 74% or so unlock feature. So that is what we'll have a look at right now. Alright, so we are up and mining Ethereum now, and at just stock settings here and full power limit 100%, we are getting, well, around between 76 and 78 mega hash. Now it's common for LHR GPUs to kind of bounce around in hash rate a little bit like this with the unlockers, but I'm gonna say we're getting around 77 mega hash at 348 watts, and that gives us an efficiency of 222 kilo hashes per watt. But now let's start power limiting this GPU and see if we can get better efficiency at stock clocks. Alright, so the best efficiency that I was able to find at stock clocks mining Ethereum was at 72% power limit, where we are getting around 75 mega hash at 250 or so watts for an efficiency of just around 300 kilo hashes per watt. But that is it for power limiting on stock clocks, so I'm going to put the power limit back to 100% and start overclocking to see what is the highest possible hash rate that we can get. Alright, so the best hash rate that I was able to find, you can see my overclocks on the screen here, we're getting around 91 or so mega hash at basically full TDP of 345 watts or so. But yeah, really impressive hash rate wise, I would say. Now I'm going to start power limiting with the overclocks in place to see what the best efficiency we can get, you know, from power limiting with the overclocks. Alright, so the best efficiency that I found with overclocks in place was at 85% power limit, where we're getting like 88.5 or so mega hash at 297 watts. And that's giving us an efficiency of just around 300 kilo hashes per watt. But now there's one more thing I want to try, which is to lock the core clock instead of power limiting. And let's see if we can get better results that way. Alright, so I had a little bit of trouble getting the locked core clock perfectly in Afterburner, so I just did it in T-Rex in the batch file directly instead. And the best result that I was able to get was at 1100 megahertz locked core clock, where we're getting around, like, it's bouncing around quite a bit on both the hash rate and the wattage, but it seems to be around like 90 mega hash at 280 watts basically, which gives us a efficiency of 316 kilo hash per watt, which is the best we've seen, and we're getting basically full hash rate here. So really good results using locked core clock there. And I guess that is it for Ethereum / Ethereum Classic. So let's move over to Ravencoin / Firo. Alright, so when it comes to Ravencoin and Firo, what's great for us is that they actually use really similar algorithms. Basically, Ravencoin uses the CorePow algorithm and Firo uses their new FiroPow algorithm, which are both just slight variations of ProgPow, which basically means for us that I only need to test one of them, which I'll be testing Ravencoin today. And we will know that we will get the exact same results on both Firo and Ravencoin in terms of hash rates, efficiencies, you know, power consumption, overclock settings. All of that will be exactly the same for both coins. So I will just be testing Ravencoin, but we'll know that the results would be the exact same for Firo as well. Alright, so mining Ravencoin, we are at all stock settings now. We are getting around 53 mega hash, pretty exactly, at 343 watts, and that gives us an efficiency of 154 kilo hashes per watt all stock. Now I'm gonna start power limiting at stock clocks, and let's see what the best efficiency we can get by doing that is. Alright, so the best efficiency that I was able to find at stock clocks was at 92% power limit actually, and that is giving us 52.5 mega hash at 321 watts for an efficiency of 164 kilo hashes per watt. But now let's put the power limit back to 100% and let's overclock to see what the highest possible hash rate we can get is. Alright, so in terms of highest possible hash rate that I was able to find is 56.4 mega hash roughly at 344 watts, and that's giving us again an efficiency of 164 kilo hashes per watt, so the same as our best efficiency we found at stock clocks. So yeah, I'm gonna try power limiting with the overclocks in place now, and let's see what the best efficiency we can get at overclocked is basically. Alright, so funny enough, the best efficiency was actually at 100% power limit. So yeah, I mean, same numbers as I just read to you while overclocked, right? 56 or so mega hash at 344 watts for an efficiency of 164 kilo hashes per watt basically. But I'm gonna try to lock the core clock as well, and let's see if that gives us a better efficiency. Alright, so basically results are pretty similar doing locked core clock instead of power limit and overclocked. It's getting around 55.7 mega hash at 340 watts, which gives us an efficiency of 164 kilohashes per watt, which is what we got with like the regular overclocking basically. So yeah, that is it for Ravencoin. Now let's have a look at Ergo. Alright guys, so we are up and mining Ergo, and we are getting around 226 mega hash at 308 watts, and that gives us an efficiency of 734 kilohashes per watt. So now let's start power limiting at stock clocks and see what the best efficiency we can get is. Alright, so the best efficiency that I was able to find was at 60% power limit, where we're getting around 232 or so mega hash per second at 209 watts for an efficiency of 1.11 mega hash per watt. But now let's put power limit back to 100% and let's start overclocking. Alright guys, so the highest possible hash rate that I was able to get is 274.9 mega hash, and that's pulling 324 watts for an efficiency of 848 kilohashes per watt. But now let's try to power limit with our overclocks in place and see if we get a better result that way. Alright guys, so the best efficiency that I was able to find was actually at 60%, where we're getting 251.7 mega hash at 209 watts for an efficiency of 1.2 mega hash per watt, which is pretty good. But I'm gonna try to lock the core clock as well and see if we can get even a better efficiency that way. Alright, so basically I wasn't able to get any sort of better result by locking the core clock. It basically stayed about the same at 255 mega hash at 219 watts. So if it just slightly worse efficiency there at 1.17 mega hash per watt. But anyway, that is it for Ergo. Now let's move on to Flux. Alright guys, so we are up and mining Flux, and just with all stock settings we're getting around 103 solutions per second at 349 watts, which is giving us a efficiency of 295, or rather 0.295 solutions per second per watt. So yeah, that is it for stock settings. Now I'm gonna start power limiting with stock clocks and see what the best efficiency we can get there is. Alright guys, so best efficiency that I was able to find at stock clocks for Flux mining is at 75% power limit, where we're getting around 89 or so solutions per second at 262 watts, and that gives us a efficiency of 0.34 solutions per second per watt. So yeah, now let's put our power limit back to 100% and let's start overclocking. Alright, so as is usually the case with Flux, we didn't get that much of an increase by overclocking, but we got a few solutions a second. So we're at 107 solutions per second now roughly at 349 watts, and that gives us an efficiency of 0.307 solutions per second per watt basically. So yeah, I'm gonna start power limiting with our overclocks in place, and let's see if we can get better efficiency while overclocked. Alright, so with overclocks in place, the best efficiency I was able to find was at 80% power limit, where we're getting around 95 to 96 solutions per second at 280 watts, which gives us an efficiency of 0.343 solutions per second per watt. I'm just gonna try quickly to lock the core clock and see if we get a better result that way. Alright guys, so basically locking the core clock was just worse in every way basically. So from my perspective, it's not worth using locked core clock on a 3080 Ti mining Flux. But that's it for our testing. Now let's have a look at our results. So here are all of our results from the testing in my spreadsheet here, and I'm gonna leave a link for this spreadsheet in the description of this video so you can go check it out. But let's have a just quick run through it here. We can see for Ethereum and Ethereum Classic, the absolute highest hash rate we were able to find was 91 mega hash, which is pretty insane when you consider that's a LHR hash rate, you know. And if you're willing to just sacrifice 1 mega hash, you can also get the absolute best efficiency, which was 310 kilo hashes per watt, basically at 90 mega hash, which is decent, definitely decent for a LHR GPU. And moving on to Ravencoin /Firo, basically you can get the best efficiency and hash rate at 100% power limit when overclocked. So you get 56.4 mega hash with an efficiency of 0.164, so 164 kilo hashes per watt. As for Ergo, highest hash rate we got was just below 275 mega hash. And if you're willing to just sacrifice like 14 mega hash there, which is definitely worth it, you can also get the best possible efficiency at 1.2 mega hash per watt, and that is with the locked core clock. And for Flux, highest hash rate we got was 107 solutions per second. However, I would recommend going with the more efficient settings here, which will give you an efficiency of 0.343 solutions per second per watt at 96 solutions per second, which is still a really high hash rate for Flux. So now what I've done is I've taken all of these numbers and I've put them into whattomine here, so that we can see profitability mining on this GPU. And as we can see, the most profitable coin is of course Ethereum, which will gain you about $5.25 per day after electricity cost, which electricity cost I've just put to the regular 10 cents per kilowatt hour. In second place we actually have Firo at $4.60 per day. Then we have Ravencoin at $4.30 per day. We've then got Ergo just below that at $4.29 per day. And after that we got Flux at $3.76. And finally we got some random ETH hash coins and Ethereum Classic at $2.33 per day. So that is it for profitability currently mining on the 3080 Ti. Alright, that's it. So now if you found this helpful or entertaining, I guess, then please give the video one of these. I'd really appreciate it. And what you gotta do now is you gotta click on the next video on the screen, because this video is over. You can also click the picture of my face, so subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate that. But yeah, go click on that next video and I'll see you there. Goodbye. Bye bye. Goodbye, bye bye.